Continuing on with the TMCC Library Open Genealogy Lab Outstanding Guest Speaker Series, today we are pleased to welcome back one of our favorite presenters, Melissa Barker. Melissa, also known as the Archive Lady, is a certified archives manager and public historian currently working at the Houston County, Tennessee Archives. She lectures, teaches, and writes about the genealogy research process, researching in archives and records preservation. She conducts virtual webinar presentations across the U.S. for genealogical and historical societies. She writes a popular blog titled A Genealogist in the Archives and is a well-known book reviews editor for the FGS magazine Forum and Utah Genealogical Association magazine Crossroads. She writes bi-weekly advice column entitled The Archive Lady, published at Abundant Genealogy, and she also writes history pieces for her local newspaper, the Houston County Herald, called From the Archives. Her professional genealogy expertise is in Tennessee records, and she is currently taking research clients. She has been researching her own family history for the past 30 years. The title of her presentation today is Researching at the Tennessee State Library and Archives at Home. So I would like to offer a warm virtual welcome to Melissa.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. Appreciate you having me today. And I hear y'all are having snow out there, so I hope everyone stays safe. Yesterday it was 85 degrees here, and today it's in the low 40s and we have sleet. So that's how Tennessee weather goes. We're going to talk about researching at the Tennessee State Library and Archives at home. And we're going to do that by, I'm going to show you a tremendous amount of information that they have on their website. Now, many of you may not have Tennessee ancestors. Well, two things about that. This is actually just a guide. And I think you could take any of these instructions and use them on any state library site. And so wherever you're doing research, whatever state in the United States, all 50 US states have a state library and archives. And so they all have a website. So we should be using them at home. It should save us a lot of time. And you may be surprised what you can find that keeps you from having to travel. I don't get to travel very much, if at all, because I work full-time in an archive. So I do all of my genealogy from a distance. And so I've been very successful at it. Also keep in mind that many libraries and archives websites change over time. They get updated, they get revamped. And so it may be that when you go back to a site that it has changed, but don't let that bother you, because you can always use the search feature to look for specific things that you're looking for. So first I want to talk about some facts of Tennessee. And someone was talking about the Cumberland Gap earlier. Well, the Cumberland Gap goes right through East Tennessee. So Tennessee became a state, the 16th state, on June the 1st, 1796. As we know in genealogy, dates are important. And so this date should be important to you, especially if you have ancestors in this area. You've had ancestors in North Carolina, Virginia, and in Kentucky and other states in this area. That date should be important to you. The entire state of Tennessee is comprised of North Carolina lands. Originally, the entire state was North Carolina. So here's the map to show what it looked like before Tennessee became a state. And so many times your ancestors didn't necessarily move to Tennessee, but they became Tennesseans by the sheer fact that the state was adopted. Tennessee is historically divided into 3 grand divisions. This is important to know because as we were talking about before we started the recording, many people will say, well, where do you live? And I'll say, I live in the Middle Tennessee area. And so there's 3 grand divisions. And here is an example, a graphic to show you that. This is the West Division, the Middle Division, and the East Division. You see what that star is? That's exactly where I'm at. So I'm in I'd like to say that I'm in the westernmost part of Middle Tennessee. East Tennessee, which I just talked about, is entirely located in the Appalachian region and it borders North Carolina. I've had people talk about earlier this morning, I was on another meeting and they're talking about one of their neighbors is moving to Tennessee, to East Tennessee. And they're talking about they would like to visit Tennessee one day. And I said, it's a beautiful state. I would encourage anyone to come. So the Appalachian region, there is a lot of cultural history to learn about in East Tennessee. This is actually a photograph from the Tennessee State Library and Archives Arts and Crafts and Folklore photographs. 2 women making corn shuck dolls and baskets. This is from the Appalachian region. This is a photograph right off the TSLA's website. Middle Tennessee. It is located east of the Tennessee River and west of the Central Time Zone. And so Middle Tennessee is, of course, right in the middle. It includes Nashville, Tennessee, where Music City, USA is, where the Grand Ole Opry is. And so Middle Tennessee is a pretty good chunk of the state and one that I live in, and fantastic places to visit here. This is actually a photograph from my archives, from the Houston County, Tennessee Archives and Museum. This is the Erin Depot and the Central Hotel. Neither of these buildings still exist. In fact, we don't even have the railroad anymore, but this is dated back about the 1920s. And so Middle Tennessee has a lot of rich history. And so if you're ever visiting here, or if you have ancestors from here, you should be researching them and all the many libraries and archives that are available. So West Tennessee is located west of the Tennessee River and borders Arkansas and Missouri on the Mississippi River. And so West Tennessee has a really rich in history, some fantastic places. Some of my husband's ancestors went into West Tennessee up into Kentucky. So anybody that's traveled this way, you know that West Tennessee is very beautiful. And so if you ever go through the whole state of Tennessee, you'll see that there are geographic changes. The West Tennessee is really flat. Middle Tennessee, you start getting those hills and valleys, and then East Tennessee has mountains. So a great place to visit. This is the David Crockett Hunting Club on the Obion River in West Tennessee in 1948. This photo is also from the Tennessee State Library and Archives Department of Conservation Photograph Collection. One thing about state archives, they love to digitize photographs and put them on their website. And so always look for those websites and for photographs. Our nickname is the Volunteer State. Some of you may or may not have known that. Why did we get the nickname the Volunteer State? It's because during the War of 1812, Tennessee had more volunteers during that war than any other state. And so that's how we got the nickname the Volunteer State. So the Tennessee State Library and Archives building. I know we're going to talk about researching this from home, but I wanted to give you a picture of what the building looks like. Now, this is actually the old building. This is photograph is from 1953, just after this particular building was built. I called this my home away from home. I did a tremendous amount of research in this building. I went back to school and became an archivist in this building. But now, as of 2021, we have a brand new building. We're very excited about it. I encourage all of you, if you get a chance, to actually visit the building. This is the new Tennessee State Library and Archives building. We had our grand opening on April the 12th, 2021. And it is state of the art. I think the most important thing that we're all here in Tennessee excited about is the fact that we have a lot more parking. The old building only had about 10 parking spaces around its entire building, and it was in downtown Nashville. This particular building, this new one, is in downtown Nashville as well, but there is an underground parking garage with 150 parking spaces. So we are very excited about that. But the fantastic record is a great place to come and do research. So the Tennessee State Library and Archives website. Here is part of the website here, the main page. There is a tremendous amount of information on this website. I cannot spend the time we're going to have today and tell you about everything. So these are some of the things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about just briefly the genealogy index search, which is actually fairly new by a couple of years. It is a whole website search. Not all archives have that feature, but the Tennessee State Library and Archives instituted that a couple of years ago. We're going to talk about history in the genealogy section. It's just chock full of great information. And if you don't have ancestors from Tennessee, you're going to see some databases that include information about people who are not from here. And you'll see that, especially one called Patriot Paths. You're going to love that. County and municipal records. Many times we have to find out what kind of records are available or how far back do they date. This is a great place to find that information. Inventories of county records on microfilm. Many times we want to know what records are actually available, and a lot of times they've been microfilmed. And so I'm going to show you where you can find that. The Tennessee Virtual Archive, or what we call TIVA. This is phenomenal. This is where they put all of their digitized records, photographs, and everything. And so I'm going to show you some fantastic databases within TIVA, but there is so much more there that I just will not be able to cover. So I encourage you to go there. The manuscript collection finding aids and guides. I find that manuscript collections are one of the most underused records collections by genealogists. And so we should be researching in these when we're researching. And so I'll show you where to find the finding aids and guides. Tennessee newspapers, actually arranged by county. You ever wanted to know, was there a particular newspaper available at a particular time? This is a great place to go to find that information. And there's many of the state archives that have just these same types of things on their websites. And Patriot Paths. This is actually one that Suzanne and I actually talked about that she thought would be really neat for me to show you. And Patriot Paths, this is one of those databases that if you don't have Tennessee ancestors, that you may find a use for this particular database. So let's talk about the genealogy index search. This is where you'll find it on the main page, is genealogy index search. And if for some reason you go here and the TSLA has changed their website, all you have to do is just do a search on their search engine. But genealogy index search, this is actually search all of their collections. You can choose more specific database from main menu, put in a name. You can put in as little information or as much information as you'd like. You could put in a keyword, and it searches all of their collections on their website. So that's great. It's not perfect. So I encourage you to actually go to the actual databases, the actual digital databases, and finding aids to find what you're looking for. But I have found that it is actually pretty exhaustive. Actually, if you go here, you can also do death record search. The state of Tennessee did not require death records by law until 1908. However, there are our 4 largest counties, which is Davidson County, Shelby County, Knox County, and Hamilton County, that kept death records on their own earlier, back to the 1890s. And so just because you hear that Tennessee didn't keep death records until 1908, if your ancestors lived in one of those 4 major counties, they could have death records going back further, and birth records. And so you also see that there is some cemetery records here, death notices from newspapers and obituaries, actual death certificates, things like that. If you look at the military records search on that same tab, there's all kinds of information. There's Southern Claims Commission records, Spanish American War records, Tennessee Confederate Pension Applications Index. If you have a Tennessee Confederate, you can look to see if they're listed in the index. World War I veterans, actually. And so you can actually go and do some military research. And then they have miscellaneous Tennessee records under this section as well. They have inmates of the Tennessee State Penitentiary. If you have an ancestor that was at the Tennessee State Penitentiary between 1831 and 1850, here is a great database for you to look at. Also, they have them from 1851 to 1870. The Tennessee Supreme Court cases, I would highly encourage you, if you think that you may have someone who may have had a case in the Tennessee Supreme Court, to go there. This is a multi-year project that they're working on. They are not digitizing, they're actually processing and indexing the Tennessee Supreme Court cases. And so you can go to the index, you can search by surname, you can search by county, and maybe find a court case. And then you can order the court case and they'll copy it and send it to you. They also have a list of family Bible records. It's just an index, but you can actually go there and see what family Bible records are there. Now, this is where I talk about people who maybe don't live in Tennessee, because these may include people who didn't live in Tennessee. However, they were listed in a Bible record that was donated to the archive. So it's important that you might check that. So the history and genealogy section, this is, as you can imagine, is a very large section, and it contains a lot of records and information. So we want to, if you look over there to the right, there's all of this information, African-American resources, maps, which they have a fantastic map section. There's those county and municipal records, military research, legislative records, newspapers and manuscripts and microfilm, vital records. So tons of information. And believe me, every state archive that you go to is just like this. They're chock full. One of the things that you may find difficult is you may get lost, or you may get intimidated or overwhelmed by what is on their website. Just take your time and methodically go through the website. I tell this to genealogists for any website, but especially state archives websites, because they can't put everything on the front page. And so you'll need to dig down, kind of like peeling an onion, and look for anything and everything that you can find. So county and municipal records, let's look at those. They actually are very interested in documenting each and every county's records. And what do they document? They have county fact sheets, which give you a tremendous amount of information about each county. We have 95 counties in Tennessee. And so they have done a fantastic job of taking each county and giving you some great facts about that. And I show you how to get there. Here is what this looks like. It's an A through W. We don't have any Z or Y counties, but you can actually click on the letter and it'll take you to a list and you can pick which county you're researching. So here is our county where I live and work, Houston County. And Houston County was formed in 1871 from the counties of Dixon, Humphreys, and Stewart counties. And it gives you the private act that did that. The county seat is Erin, which is where our archives is located. So it gives you that information. Another thing that it does as well, and I wanted to show you on this particular one, this is the fact sheet for Stewart County. And it gives you that same information, but then it tells you about courthouse fires or tornadoes or things that may have happened that may have affected the records. And so you're going to see here, it says there was a fire at the Stewart County Courthouse in 1862. Well, that was during the Civil War. If you do not know, in Stewart County, that's where the Battle of Fort Donelson is located. There's a national battlefield there. And I can tell you the rest of the story. Yes, the courthouse was burned in 1862. That may make you think, well, then all the records before 1862 are just gone. That's not true. The actual truth of the matter is that when the Union came and they wanted to burn the courthouse, the citizens begged them, please let us take our records out of the courthouse, and then you can burn the courthouse if you want to. They actually allowed the local residents to go into the courthouse, remove the records. They stored them in a local cave, and then the Union burned the courthouse. So their archives in Stewart County have records that date back to 1803. And so don't always think that all of the records are gone when a courthouse burns or has some other calamity happen to it. Here is a part of the listing on that fact sheet for Houston County. It tells you different books that have been published and information that have been published that you can find. Usually all these will be found at the state archives level, but you also might find them at local county archives or historical societies. Again, published local records is another list, something that you can look for. Maybe you can even actually find a copy online at Amazon if it's still being published, or check with the local historical society. I know that our historical society sells a couple of published works, and so we're also looking to have some more of the older published things that are no longer in print reprinted. So always look for that. Also on this page, and there's a lot on each page for each county, there are local records on microfilm. And then it tells you the earliest records that are available, how far back marriages go for this county, how far back the wills go for this county, court records, court minutes, tax books. And so great information down at the county level. And then it tells you, shows you newspapers on microfilm. Census records, what census records are available. At this point in time, used to be, when I first started genealogy, you know, not the 1940 census wasn't available, the 1950 census wasn't available. I don't think the 1930 census had been out for very long. And so nowadays, we just take it for granted that all of these censuses are available and available for free on more than one website. And so it's kind of interesting how census records are not that hard to find anymore. And then it gives you some additional research aids for each county. And so I'm showing you an example of the county where I live, but this is possible for each and every county in Tennessee. So let's talk about the inventories of county records on microfilm. We still use microfilm. I know that everything's going digital, but in many cases, microfilm is still the way to find these records. And so inventories of county records on microfilm, this will help you to know what records have been microfilmed. And you'll see it there on the fact sheet. We saw it just a second ago. And you can, it's actually a link, a live link, and you can click on it and it'll take you to that section. So when you, or you can go to back to the history and genealogy part and you can look under county records and find it as well. See down there at the bottom, it says ordering county microfilm reels. Well, you don't have to order them per se, but this is where you'll click to go find the list of what they have. Or you can go to here and click on inventories of county records on microfilm. There's actually 1 or 2 places on the website to get to these particular types of records. So when you get there, this is what it kind of looks like. And it's a roll by roll listing of individual counties that have microfilm and all of the microfilm that's available. And you can actually go to the spreadsheet that shows you each and every county, and you can click on the county that you're interested in. And so once you click on that county, and we're going to use Stewart County for that, there is a digitized document that comes up, kind of like a finding aid, and it comes up. And there's a thing there at the bottom I want you to see. When you go to look at these listings, you might see some notes. Now, in this case, in this particular listing, there's a note where if there's a C, it means county generated microfilm. And if there's an I, it means it's available through interlibrary loan. And so maybe it's something that you can obtain through interlibrary loan. I honestly don't know if they loan outside of the state. That's something you'll have to ask about. But here is what the listing looks like. And so in Stewart County, we have Chancery Court records. And as you can see at the top there, this is only 1 of 14 pages of listings of microfilm. And so it gives you the type of record it is, the volume numbers or the volume letters, the dates that it covers, the roll number, and the format, which pretty much all of them are 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter. Here's their county clerk marriages, as you can see, that are microfilmed. Now, I also will encourage you to go to familysearch.org, go to the catalog, look up these same counties in Tennessee, and many of the records that have been microfilmed are available on Family Search. They may not be searchable, but the digitized images may be available on there. And so that's a great place to find them. So now we're going to come to the Tennessee Virtual Archive, my actual favorite place to go and what I love to show people. This is where they put all of their digitized photographs and records. We call it TEVA, T-E-V-A, and this is their landing page. It is a virtual archive. It's the digital repository of the Tennessee State Librarian Archives. They provide open access. Pretty much everything on there is copyright free, so you can take it and use it as you would like, unless there's a notation of a copyright. And they're adding, the most important part is that they're adding to it almost on a daily basis. There's audio files, there's film files, postcards, maps. They have a fantastic map collection in this archive. So what kinds of collections are in the virtual archive, TEVA? There are family photograph collections. There is a section called Looking Back, the Civil War in Tennessee. This is one of those that I want you to pay attention to, especially if you don't have ancestors in Tennessee. This particular project happened several years ago, and the Tennessee State Librarian Archives visited almost every county in the state of Tennessee. They advertised their visit and said, anyone with any Civil War records, photographs, or memorabilia, please meet us at this particular venue. And we're going to digitize what you have, hand it back to you, and then we're going to put those digitizations on our website. And so they did not specify that they just wanted Tennessee Civil War stuff. They accepted anything from anyone as long as it had to do with the Civil War. And so that means that there are a tremendous amount of records, photographs, and artifacts that are digitized and on this website from other states, other people who aren't from Tennessee. Because if you lived here and you had this stuff, they wanted to digitize it. So a great place to go and look. And yes, you can search by surname. Maps. There are maps at the Librarian Archives, and they have digitized a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So if you're looking for really early maps, like maps that I just showed you, where it showed Tennessee was part of North Carolina, anything early like that, you can find them there. Especially maps about surrounding states. So if you're doing research and ancestors that surround Tennessee, that's a great place to look for some maps. Another project that they did, they called Over Here, Over There, Tennesseans on World War I. Just like the Civil War project, they did the same thing. They visited almost all the counties in Tennessee. They set up the digitization equipment, encouraged people to bring their World War I documents, photographs, and artifacts. And then it didn't matter if they were from Tennessee or not. So another place where you can look for ancestors that didn't live in Tennessee, but their descendants did, and their stuff got digitized. I'm looking forward to them hopefully doing the same thing for World War II. But they have a Revolutionary War collection as well. And they have a women's suffrage collection in Tennessee. If you'll remember, Tennessee was instrumental in getting women's suffrage passed. So a great place to find records. And all of these that I'm showing you are separate databases with hundreds, if not thousands, of digitized photographs, documents, and artifacts. They also have a section called Reconstruction of the African American Legacy in Tennessee, a fantastic place, especially in February when we celebrate Black History Month, a great place to find information. And they have a total of 69, right now, 69 digital databases with images and information. And like I said, they are constantly adding to it. Now, if you're using the Tennessee State Librarian Archives as a guide to help you do research in other states, I know that other state archives do the exact same thing. They have digital databases, and so look for those. So some examples of some things you might find on a digital database on a state archives. This is a reconstruction. This is from the Reconstruction and the African American Legacy database. This is the Brownsville Colored Normal School broadside. It's not dated, but it's a digitization of the actual record. So that's what I'm trying to show you, is that what is digitized is actually very good, especially with our digital equipment these days. And you can see, well, it's like you can just take it right off the screen because it looks absolutely original. Here's a photograph of the 43rd Tennessee Veterans Reunion from 1913. And look, it has all of the names of all of the veterans. This is from the Looking Back, the Civil War in Tennessee project that I told you about. Someone, wherever that they were, brought this photograph in and they digitized it and put it on the website. And so these are 43rd Tennessee veterans. Maybe some of these people went off and did not live in Tennessee anymore, and maybe they're one of your ancestors. That's why it's important that we look at all resources for our ancestors. This one is actually from the Over Here, Over There Tennesseans in World War I. And this one actually is one that I actually got to participate in. This is a World War I jacket that was worn by Doug Dillon from Houston County, Tennessee. TSLA did not actually come to Houston County. We're actually a very small county, so they kind of incorporated a few counties together when they did this one. And we took this to a neighboring county, and they actually took photographs of it, and it's now on their database. Let's talk about manuscript finding aids and guides. These are not as exciting as the digitized records and photographs, but it may help you find your ancestors. And so you're going to find this under the History and Genealogy section. And you're going to see when you click on newspapers and manuscripts and microfilm manuscripts. And so you'll just click on that. All of these are clickable links. And you're going to see there, it says list of manuscript collection finding aids, and they give you the alphabet, A through H, I through P, Q through Z, to help you narrow down your search. So when you click on A through H, then it gives you a list, and it gives you an alphabetical list of the collections. That's what these are, collections. And it gives you the date range that these collections cover. And then it gives you a microfilm number if they've been microfilmed. So that's also great. And so if you look at this list, you're going to see personal papers that have been donated to the archive and have been processed. That's what are called manuscript collections. So you see Adam Gillespie family papers, and you see Ozzie Lee family papers, Paul J. Adams family papers, and then you come down, you can see African American Funeral Program Collection. And so they're not just personal papers, they're also business records, they're civic organizations, social organizations, anyone that had a collection of records that were preserved and donated. So Tennessee newspapers are arranged by county. All genealogists love to do research in newspapers. I love to do research in newspapers. I would encourage you to, when you're researching in newspapers, to read the newspapers. Don't just use that search bar and look for your ancestors and then move on. Go in and read these newspapers, because a lot of what's in the newspapers does not show up when you do a search. And so that's why I love to read newspapers. I have found more information on my ancestors by just reading the newspaper instead of just doing a search. So the TSLA has newspapers, and they have newspapers on microfilm. I've actually toured their facility. They have the actual newspapers sitting on shelves. And so we should be looking for newspapers. Once you get to the newspapers, manuscript and microfilm section, you're going to see newspapers on microfilm at the Tennessee State Librarian Archives. That's what you want to click on. Then it's going to give you an A through W. Now, this is not actually by county. It is by county. There's two ways you can look at this. There is, you can look for the name of the newspaper. They also give you an option to look through, find a city and look at the newspapers that were available there, and also by county. So here is Decatur, which is the city of Decatur in Meigs County at the top there. And it gives you the list of the newspapers that were published and the issues that the TSLA actually has. And then you can see down there, Decaturville, that's from Decatur County, same thing. And so that's greatly, it's a very specifically listed newspapers. So what if you want to look for newspapers by county? Maybe you don't know the city, so you want to look by county. You can do that. There is a spreadsheet here, and Tennessee newspapers are arranged by county. And so under Anderson County, you have the cities of Clinton, Coal Creek. So each of these are clickable by the city. And then when you click on that, you're going to get something like this. And so a great way to look for newspapers. Here is Clinton. Once you are here, you click Clinton, this is what you see. So Clinton is the city in Anderson County, and then these are the lists of the newspapers that were published in that city and that the TSLA has available. And they give you the specific dates of what they have available. So you can actually go here to see if they exist there. Now we're going to talk about Patriot Paths. And this is another one of those databases that I would highly encourage you to go and look at, especially if you don't have ancestors in Tennessee, but your ancestors were in New England or they were part of the American Revolution. So Patriot Paths, you can get there by their main page or just get on their search engine and search Patriot Paths. And this is what their main page for that looks like. I encourage you to click on the link to instructions and read how to use this database. There is so much in this database that you really do need to read the instructions. And I'll tell you that they are constantly adding to it. They're not finished yet. And so if you go here and you can't find anything in your research, come back because they're constantly adding more. And so we're going to talk about the icons there at the top about each one of these and then what they offer. So the Patriot Selector. The Patriot Selector is that you can search by your patriot. And so that's a great thing to do. So I did a search for John Abbott. And what this Patriot Paths does is it uses Revolutionary War pension records to map out where this person went from there, where they were living, all the way to where they ended up. And so in this case, John Abbott was living in North Carolina in 1778. By 1782, he was living in South Carolina. And then by 1825, he's living near Knoxville, Tennessee. And so this is fantastic information for those of you that are researching American Revolutionary War patriots, especially if they had a pension file. And it shows you this map. And then you can also search by Patriot List. So this is very, very overwhelming, I know. But over there on the left, it has a Patriot List. You can actually go through the whole list. It's in alphabetical order. And it gives you the pension numbers there. And then this is the map. If you don't do like this right here, an individual patriot, if you just go over there and look at the entire map of everybody that they've mapped, this is what you're going to see. So yeah, it is a tremendous amount of information. They've done a phenomenal job and a lot of work putting this together. I get very excited about this section of their website because I could sit here for hours, even with people that I'm not even related to, and just look at their paths and look at what they've gone through and how they ended up in Tennessee or where did they come from. So a great place to go and look. Explore the Tennessee State Librarian Archives website from home. That is my presentation. I encourage you to visit my blog, A Genealogist in the Archives, and there's the link. It's also in the handout, and you can find me on Facebook at The Archive Lady. And email me if you've got any questions after this presentation, if we don't get to them. I encourage you to go to the Tennessee State Librarian Archives, but I also encourage you to go to any state archives. California has a state archives. Washington State, Virginia, I don't care what state it is, they have a state archives. It may not be called the state archives. I know some of them are called different things, but get on their websites, start exploring. If you're like me and you're not able to travel to some of those states where your ancestors are from, get on their state archives websites. And so that's my message for you today. I encourage you to go to the one on Tennessee, go to the Patriot Paths. That's a fantastic place just to play around on. And with that, Suzanne, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, class, I'll open it up to you. If you have a question for Melissa, please unmute your microphone, but leave your camera off. And Melissa, I had a quick question while I'm waiting for the class to ask questions. On the TSLA portion that you were showing us, where the names of the newspapers were, I assume the W stands for a weekly publication?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure.
Yes, you're right.
And then on the Patriot Paths, who actually adds that information online?
They have employees at the TSLA that do that. They go through the Revolutionary War pensions and they add that information on there because, you know, you can, I believe on fold 3, you can actually access the Revolutionary War pensions. And so they're using that information. I think they're also working with NARA in Washington, D.C. And like I said, they're not finished by a long shot. They have a tremendous amount more to add.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, Vicki.
It's Vicky. I can't find the hand. I'm sorry. I just want to know that Patriots Paths thing's phenomenal. I had no
Yes.
idea that was there. I can't wait to dig on it. And I'm actually the state president of the Daughters of 1812 in Montana. Do they have some stuff on 1812? Because those are the toughest records to find.
I did not delve into that. Let me
Okay.
look real quick. Let me, if anybody else wants to ask a question, I'm going to look real quick.
Okay. Well, I
Vicky,
can look myself. I just thought maybe if you knew quickly, it's okay.
I would actually say they do because, I mean, we are the volunteer state because we had so many
Right.
volunteers go to the War of 1812. So I would say yes, I would go to their website and search for it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Vicki, I wanted to add something. I've got a book right here in front of me. Actually, I got it through interlibrary loan, called Tennesseans in the War of 1812. And it lists everybody alphabetically. So if your 1812 ancestor was in Tennessee, please send me an email and I'll be happy to scan the pages that your ancestor's on and send it to you.
Okay, who's talking?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sue.
Okay, good. I will. Thank you, Suzanne.
Hi, this is Suzanne. You muted yourself, Suzanne. I don't know if you meant to.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the name of the book is Tennesseans in the War of 1812, transcribed and indexed by Byron and Samuel Sisler in Nashville, Tennessee, published in 1992.
Okay.
So yes,
yeah, I've got that book here in the archives too.
I'll definitely email you. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Glad I mentioned it. I wasn't going to say anything, but see, you never know.
Okay, anybody else have questions?
Yeah, this is DB. I wanted to know on the Patriots Paths, if we were to screenshot those, can we actually post those to our, I don't know, Family Search or WikiTree or whatever accounts for our profile?
I would think that you could. As far as I know, pretty much everything that's on their website is copyright free. But I would read their instructions, like I said, and read it in fine print on that section. But yeah, I think that you can.
Yeah, I think that's exciting, right?
Very exciting.
The other question I have is on the some of the records, like those pension records. Are they making those available? Like,
I will tell you that if you click on some of those, not all of them, but if you click on some of those, they've actually uploaded some of the documents.
fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Melissa, if somebody wanted to reach out, if they can't find it on the website and they wanted to reach out for assistance, would you be able to help them?
I sure could actually reach out to me. And if I can't find it, I'll actually get in contact with TSLA because I talk to them all the time. Being a Tennessee archivist, we stay in close contact. So I'll be glad to help any way I can.
So just go ahead and email you at the email at the end of your presentation. Perfect. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody else got questions?
This is Jill. I have a question.
Sure.
My whole family tree has changed just recently from some work that a cousin has done. And we originally thought the family was from England. and she believes they were from Germany and they migrated to England and there were too many people there and England sent them out. So she believes they're with this Palatine Group and wondered if you knew anything about the group that migrated into North Carolina, because we can find some of their not Bible, but church records in Carolina and then in Tennessee.
I would check with the TSLA. They have actually a way you can contact them. They actually have an Ask the Archivist or Ask the Librarian thing on their website, and they actually, I think, respond pretty quickly. But I would ask them, because one thing that the Tennessee State Librarian Archives does, I don't know if all archives do this, but I know they do this, is that they try to collect records and especially published works for all of the counties around them, but especially North Carolina, since we were part of North Carolina. I don't have an answer to that, but I would encourage you to reach out to them.
Okay, and so I have another branch of my family that were North Carolina and it stayed North Carolina. Would they be able to help me with those questions too? Or just the
No,
parts that went into Tennessee?
I would encourage you to reach out to the North Carolina State Archives for your North Carolina questions.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In the 1990s, I believe it was, I provided Sawney a record of the $3 million that was set aside for the School of the South. Would they have sent that sort of record to you all, or would that have been digitized?
I don't know. That's something you'd have to ask the is it the University of Swanee?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would actually contact them first,
Okay.
because most all colleges, well, not most all, but a lot of our colleges have libraries and archives on their campuses, and the first thing that they do is archive their own college records. But
Yes.
it's possible if they don't have anything, that it could have been transferred to the Tennessee State Library and Archives, and you could ask them.
I provided it to the historian for
Okay.
Sawney. So
Okay.
I don't know, maybe she had included that in the library records, and then I'll
Could
have
have.
to check and see.
Yeah, check with them and see if they've got that. They may have it in a vertical file or something if it wasn't a whole lot of pages or a whole lot of records.
She said that was the first record they had, that there actually was the $3 million. They suspected it, but never had proof.
Okay,
And-
well,
And this letter provided that proof, so.
yeah, I'd Google and see if they have a website, see if they have any online digitized records, and then I'd contact them and tell them, what you're looking for.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Give it a few seconds. Okay, well, Melissa, if there's no other questions, before we say goodbye, I want to remind everyone that class goes on for another couple hours, and we hope you all stay for the class. Everyone's invited. Lots of exciting things happen in the second hour of class. And Melissa, I just cannot thank you for your continued support for the TMCC Open Genealogy Lab. We certainly are deeply indebted and appreciative of everything you do for us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love coming and talking to you guys and educating you on Tennessee records and researching an archive. So anytime you want me back, you just let me know.
Well, thank you so much. And before anyone logs off, I want to remind everyone, if there's anything in the chat box that you want, download it before you leave, because if you leave and forget it and then you need to come back, you will not have access to the chat box. So once again, everyone's invited to stay for the next few hours. And if you'd like to leave us at this point, you can just click on the red end button and that'll take you out. And thank you once again, Melissa. We really appreciate it.